Hello everybody, my name is Mo, and today I've come across a problem that a lot of collectors will probably experience as well. I have too many of the same card. And today I'm gonna show you what you can do with these cards. So for today's craft project, you will need a silicone mold that can fit your Pokemon cutouts. It entirely depends on what you have, but let me bring the box. You will also need some sort of backings for your pins. We are making pins, yes. Surprise, surprise. I chose these pins pin backings because they feel more secure to me, but you can choose whatever you want. I just like these. They're the ones that go in and out of your clothing. I also tried to fit some into these nice star molds, but that didn't work. You will need thick glue also to cover your Pokemon cutouts so the resin doesn't seep into them and ruin your cutouts. So, let's get to it. Now, the most important part you want to cover is the edges of the cutout, like so, very deliciously, because that's where the resin really seeps in and ruins it for you. So let's get to it. You want to make sure you make one coat on one direction. He really likes that shit. And then when it dries, you want to put the other coat in the other direction to sort of minimize the brush strokes. Now don't do what I did here, because that only a super idiot would do, like myself. Don't cover one side, flip it over and cover the other side. Who would do that? That's ridiculous.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
He really likes that. I'm sorry, but he's really weird. Now, after all of your Pokemon are covered one way, and then also the other way, I will now show you a trick on how to measure out your resin. You will need a kitchen scale for this, and some sort of a cup, preferably a measuring cup with numbers on it. Whatever your numbers are, I don't count in freedom units, I apologize. Now set it to 0. And you will fill your mold with rice or some sort of grain, which will now show us just how much resin we actually need. Now you don't need to fill this all the way, depends how thick you want your pins to be, but I am doing 2 molds of the same kind, so I will be filling these up to the fullest. Now if you notice me speaking with a little bit of a lisp, that's because my tooth is currently outside of me, and it's hard to talk with a swollen mouth. Now it depends on your kind of resin, it will all come with different instructions, but you follow the instructions, otherwise this will happen and everything will be ruined. Clean your molds beforehand, always use rubbing alcohol to clean your molds, otherwise you risk the molds sticking to the resin, which can happen even if you clean it. That is not your fault, that is the fault of the silicone not being properly cured probably, which happened to me anyways. Despite my best efforts to prevent this, but that's just life. It doesn't want you to succeed.
Stop the cap.
Now before pouring, you want to find the shape that fits your cutouts quite nicely, because if it's too tight, the paper will bend and just come out and it will not stay under the resin. And we don't want that. We want them nice, covered, and snugly fit into our pin. Now, a blowtorch is a really handy thing to have to get rid of the bubbles in resin, but don't set your house on fire or your garage on fire. I don't know where you're working at. Preferably in a very well ventilated area. It is still a chemical. And now I have realized that you can't see what I'm doing. I am sorry. I know I'm stupid. I apologize. But you will want to set the Pokemon onto the first resin layer. Oh, you can't see literally anything here. Let me zoom in for you real quick. Yeah, that's better. And then you want to pour more resin on top of the Pokemon cutout once it's set on the first resin layer. So we're kind of doing a sandwich of resin, Pokemon, and more resin, and more blowtorching. We like to play with our lives here on this channel. Do not do that. I may be stupid, but you don't have to. Now we're gonna set the pin backing onto the resin top layer. See, this one also has a locking mechanism, which I didn't know it had. It's really cool, but I won't be using it because the resin will seep into the mechanism and it won't work. Wonderful. So I am putting it onto the Pokemon how I want, and now with a clean spoon, not the spoon I was mixing the resin, that's still in my cup, I will push the resin onto the pin backing so it holds nice and strong and doesn't come out when we are done with it. So it like doesn't pop out when you like pull on it. Careful, careful. Now it would be around this point where I realized you actually can't see, and I decided to record another pin in a way that you can't see. Isn't that amazing? So here you're gonna see how to make it again, but with a clearer vision, or you know, literally any vision at all. I will check the cameras more often from now on. Yeah, look at me go. Finally doing it correctly on camera. Ooh. Now I did have some resin left over right here. I poured it. Here, let me show you. It's not that deep, but there's still some resin left over. So what you can do is basically, I made a necklace. I just put some glitters into it, some dried rose, works whatever you want to do with it. But no resin was wasted in the making of this video. I'm not rich for that. And here we are demolding the pin. Here is my lovely Emolga pin. You will either have to accept that there's a hole in it, because these are indeed for necklaces, or just use a different mold. I don't have one. I mean, I do, but I'll show you that in the ending of the video. Here I used the hole to my advantage and put a little crystal flower on my lovely Snom pin. How adorable. And here I attempted to cut the Shinx pin to size, which also works, but do cut your resin after 14 days circa, after it dries. And here's my cut Zorua also to shape, so this one doesn't have a hole. It's a fairly simple craft and gives you something to do with your extra cards. Here you can see all of them together, but what I wanted to show you at the ending of this video is, first of all, my dumbass cat. Look at her. Look at that. I love her so much. I love my dumbass. But I wanted to show you the different mold I'm using for the next batch of pins, which is I don't even know what that is, okay? But I'm gonna manually cut it out once it dries and see how that turns out. Careful while cutting. So yeah, thanks, bye!